You guys see the Epstein stuff? Apparently some of the Epstein victims are getting together and saying they're going to release their own list. I don't know if it's going to lead to anything. It's certainly good television. 2 new lists of Jeffrey Epstein's potential clients and accomplices were announced on Wednesday, one from an ongoing congressional investigation and the other compiled by the deceased sex traffickers' victims. The first list of potential conspirators compiled by U.S. Senate Finance Committee contains 58 individuals and entities with known financial ties to Epstein. Uh-huh. And where is that list? Jeffrey Epstein. Holy shit. This goes all the way to the top. Right now, Congress has been dragging their feet on the expectation that they release more Epstein files. The other day, they dropped like 50,000 pages of them. Every single one of those pages was a separate file, so they're impossible to search through. The vast majority of them are information that was already public, and they were highly censored. Also, you don't really learn a lot from saying stuff like Wells Fargo was Jeffrey Epstein associated. Like what? So he banked there? He was a financier worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, no shit, he has connections to banks. That doesn't really... Everyone with that much money has connections to banks. It's impossible not to. I guess it makes sense, though, because this was released by the Committee on Finance. Mace had a panic attack and ran out of the meetings with the Dems. Okay, let's not give Nancy Mace any credit, okay? That bitch is the most attention-hungry perform for the cameras piece of shit in all of Congress, you know? If she wants to cry in front of the cameras, it's because she thinks she'll get some attention off of it. Yeah, I saw this bit. She heard a testimony from the Epstein victims and ran out, very publicly made sure to run out crying in front of the cameras. I mean, isn't she an SA victim? Masaigu, I'm begging you, don't make me do this, okay? It's Nancy Mace. Why would you ever... She voted against the release of the files, didn't she? Why would you ever assume she's acting in good faith? Absolutely not. Under no circumstances. Professional liar. The most attention-hungry person in Congress. Supposedly Trump sent a jet to drown out the press conference? That doesn't seem likely to me. What? Dude, we are so conspiratorial.
Department of Justice telling me that this was going to happen when it had already happened. This woman abused children.
Seriously, sent by Trump to over DC? There's no way jets would fly over DC under any circumstances other than to momentarily distract this conference. Jesus Christ. Who said that? Who said that earlier? Who thought this happened? Come on. To be fair? No, not to be fair.
The U.S. House and Senate have returned from August recess and have a long list of to-do items to tackle, including avoiding a government shutdown, passing 10 appropriations bills all the way through the House and Senate and getting it to the president, and debating legislation that would slap big tariffs on some of Russia's trading partners. But before any of
yeah, that's great. Get to the Nancy Mace bit.
That can happen. Of all of the Epstein files, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee are right now speaking after talking to some of Epstein's victims. Let's listen in.
The most powerful people, not only in our country, but who knows, from across the world. So today served, I think, as a reaffirming of our commitment, our profound commitment to making sure that the Trump administration allowed and sent over the president's former defense attorney to speak with a monster and to then publicize that interview and provide this monster with a platform to perpetuate her lies. The Trump administration needs to be held accountable for that. We need to demand that Ghislaine Maxwell never get a pardon from the United States government and actually serve out the time that she was given and that she deserves for the crimes that she committed.
Good luck with that. Where's with the full press conference?
Movement and a voice of resilience. She stands.
So this is the outside conference they held, right? Epstein's victims along with other people, but there was an inner one that was the one Nancy Mace ran out of. That one was private.
Not only for herself, but for the countless others who have been silenced.
Support means more than you know. My sister Maria Farmer was not able to attend, and so I will read her remarks for her. Due to the debilitating effects of the last few years of cancer treatment, I'm unable to be here today.
Oh, shit. That's
My
nuts.
sister, Annie Farmer, will speak for me. She is a primary reason that I reported Epstein, Maxwell, and others to the FBI in 1996 after they assaulted us in 2 different locations and held me captive at Wexner's estate. While Maxwell...
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. So where is this renewed burst of energy on the Epstein shit coming from anyway? I know that Congress is back in or the House is back in session. Is it who's heading this? Is it Thomas? Is it Thomas Massey? Who's currently leading the torch?
House Oversight Democrats, and I'm so grateful to our leadership. We are incredibly lucky to have the leadership of Representative Garcia and, of course, Congresswoman Lee, who initiated the subpoena. But this is just the beginning. I think today made very clear that even those of us here who've been working on this and fighting for this, there is so much to this story that nobody knows. There are decades worth of stories and information and a cover-up of this capacity to have allowed for the abuse of over 1,000 women over the course of decades, and then stories that demonstrate that Epstein and others were able to perpetuate the abuse beyond, even after the public knew. We know
it would be a lot easier to carry this torch if the Democratic leadership was even remotely interested in playing into this, you know? Like if Schumer or Jeffries or Kamala Harris or Joe Biden would play into it at all rather than being completely silent. Trump may be covering some rich and powerful people in Epstein files. Yeah, no shit. Oh, Thomas Massey said that. Okay. I wonder who the rich and powerful people could be. Expected to hold a press conference Wednesday morning alongside Epstein's accusers. That's the big one out here, right? Was Massey one of the people out here? It's a long press conference. Do you think the women will be in danger once they publish a list? Probably not at this point. Strength in numbers. It's kind of hard to say, though. They might get some pushback. Marjorie Taylor Greene was here, too. I think I have a video on that.
So this has been the Trump damage control playbook, and there have been a lot of parts of it, but the victims
I don't want your
and survivors of
editorialization.
Jeffrey Epstein. Now, it's good to have you gentlemen both here. I want to start with you, Congressman Khanna, because you were able to speak to some of these survivors today in a closed-door session of the House Oversight Committee, and I wonder if you could just tell us how that went.
Well, I was not in the room because I want the survivors to share their own stories tomorrow, and for it to be clear that neither Congressman Massey or I spoke to them. But from what I heard from colleagues, it was harrowing. It was disgusting. People came out in tears. And what we need to remember is this is not partisan. This is not anti-Trump. This is about standing with survivors. This is about protecting kids. This is about morality. It's something that unites progressives, independents, moderates, and MAGA supporters. And tomorrow is going to be a moral and spiritual reckoning for this country.
Congressman Massey, this House Speaker Mike Johnson clearly would rather that this not happen. I think it's a fair thing to say. I want to play you his response to the House discharge petition today and get your response to it in terms of how you understand where things stand. Here's what Mike Johnson had to say earlier.
So the discharge petition from Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna, I hope I'm using the right word, will ripen soon.
Well, no, I guess it would if they get the right signature.
If they get the signature,
but it's now a moot point. It's not even necessary. I mean,
you don't think it's going to happen?
There may be a floor vote of one measure or another. We have our own resolutions to do all this, but I don't. It's sort of not necessary at the point because the administration is already doing this.
So that's the line that the administration is already doing everything. So there's no purpose in this. Are you ready to throw in the towel?
What?
No, it's hardly a document release. Most of the documents they released are already publicly available. And what Mike Johnson is doing by having his own resolution is to give political cover to those people who aren't supporting the effort by Ro Khanna and I. But here's the problem. When people go through this trove of documents, the political cover is going to go away and they're going to be exposed once again. I think you were right when you said this is the equivalent of the Pam Bondi binders being being handed out. They're only going to increase the outrage. And in the meantime, you've got these survivors who are still not getting their justice. By the way, Mike Johnson has panned the legislative effort by Ro Khanna and I, saying it's poorly drafted, but he took 3 pages out of our bill and put them verbatim in his bill, completely cribbed them. But he took the teeth out of it, is what he did. So he's got a meaningless resolution to provide a fig leaf to the people who are afraid to stand up for these survivors.
Congressman Khanna, are there good faith concerns to be had here? It strikes me there are, about the fact that normally when a criminal investigation is closed or it's reached its end, right, that people that may have come up in the course of that investigation are not publicly released because there's genuine reputational damage that can come even in the incidental mention or uncorroborated claims. Are you concerned about that at all?
Sure, it's a reasonable concern. First, the resolution protects the identity of all victims. It protects against the release of sensational acts. And the reality is, given that rich and powerful men who abused underage girls have basically had impunity, and that this has gone on for over a decade, well before Donald Trump was there, and that we have ignored victims, and that the President of the United States ran on releasing the files, and that the Attorney General said that there's a client list and the files need to be released, we need to have the overarching value of trust in government be there. And in this case, as an exception, we should release everything and trust the American people to make a distinguishing discernment between someone who got a scholarship grant from Epstein and someone who was at a sex party for Epstein engaged in sex trafficking.
I wonder if this is actually going to pan out. I feel like at this point, even if a bunch of stuff came out, enough time has passed that most of the right would just be pro-Epstein. Does anyone else feel like obviously all of their politicians and their pundits and what have you are explicitly pro-Epstein, they're pro-rape and so on. I just wonder, like, at this point, how many people would be swayed? Maybe some people. I don't know. Breaking. Any Republican who signs Representative Thomas Massey's discharge petition on the Epstein files will be seen as committing a hostile act against the Trump administration, per White House official. They're getting real explicit with it. Real explicit.
The Oversight Committee released some 30,000 pages of Epstein-related materials.
Well, there's an escalating clash happened within the House Republican Conference about how to proceed here in the aftermath of the release by the House Oversight Committee of those roughly 33,000 pages from the Justice Department that they had to subpoena to get.
Those 33,000 pages are nothing, by the way. They're absolutely nothing. No useful information there.
Because of the criticism from folks like Thomas Massey of Kentucky, who said that is simply public information for the most part and really doesn't reveal much, and that there's much more information he says must be released, which is why he is urging Republicans to side with this effort to circumvent Republican leadership and force a vote on his bill to compel the release of a
47% of Republicans would still support Trump if he was in the Epstein files. That number is way too low. I mean, that's what they say, but
additional files on the Jeffrey Epstein case. This is something that has caused significant pushback from Republican leaders and the White House. Just moments ago, I'm told from sources inside a closed-door meeting that Speaker Mike Johnson urged Republicans not to sign on to that Massey effort, instead urging them to back a separate Republican bill to support the ongoing House probe. That's something that Massey calls political cover. Now, the White House has warned Republicans not to side with Massey. Even the White House official telling reporters last night that this would be viewed as an act of hostility. Asked about that earlier today, Thomas Massey pushed back.
I do find it interesting that the 3 co-sponsors are women. Maybe they have immunity from the threats from the White House. I do think it's
woke Massey?
Disgusting that the White House has called their co-sponsorship a hostile act now. So you have the White House telling women who are trying to help women that who've been sexually exploited that that's somehow a hostile act.
Now, in order for Massey to succeed here, he will need the support of 6 Republicans to force a vote in the full House with all Democrats. And right now he has 3 Republicans who are backing this effort. Several other ones who have supported calling for more disclosure, more transparency in this Epstein case have so far not signed on to his effort amid this pressure campaign from the White House and Republican leadership, which is raising questions about whether Massey can ultimately get there. But he believes this news conference that's going to happen in a matter of minutes here, Wolf, could change the dynamic when we hear directly from some of these victims for the first time about everything they experienced in the Jeffrey Epstein.
And then right after this, we had the outdoor meeting, the one that we saw briefly, the one that Donald Trump personally sent jets to fly over.
Controversy. So the question is going to be ultimately, Wolf, will that change the dynamic here on Capitol Hill, or will it simply lead to what we're seeing now, this stalemate, this internal battle that's happening within the GOP, and that the White House hopes will end sometime soon?
All right, Manu Raju up on Capitol Hill. Thank you very, very much, Pamela.
All right, let's bring in Kara Scannell to explain what was actually in these Epstein records from the Justice Department that was released from the Oversight Committee. Kara, what can you tell us?
Nothing.
Pam, our team went through these records last night, and most of the information, if not all of it, was already stuff that is public. You know, that includes flight logs, it includes court records from Ghislaine Maxwell's prosecution. She went on trial, and so much information came out during the trial. But
oh my God, was Trump defensive again during the press conference?
We are watching a bipartisan group of lawmakers, along with some Jeffrey Epstein victims and their attorneys, pushing for transparency on Capitol Hill. One by one, these survivors detailed meeting Jeffrey Epstein at a young age, being abused, being case. Let's listen to his response.
Documents says he doesn't think you're implicated in these files, but many of your friends and donors may be, and he says that's why the Justice Department is redacting them and slow walking the release. Is the Justice Department protecting any friends or donors, sir?
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. From what I understand, I could check, but from what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given. But it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president. Even if you look at D.C. right now, D.C., it's a totally safe zone. It's called a safe zone. That's a term. It's a term of art. It's a safe zone because it's very safe. You can walk down the street now and nothing's going to happen. No crime, no murders, no nothing. Because we had a lot of problems with certain places, and we still do. All run by Democrats, or for the most part run by Democrats. So what they're trying to do with the Epstein hoax is get people to talk about that instead of speaking about the tremendous success like ending 7 wars. Sure. I ended 7 wars. Nobody's going to talk about because they're going to talk about the Epstein whatever. Sure. I understand that we were...
The Epstein whatever. This is going to work with 95% of Republicans. Jesus. 7 wars? The number keeps on rising. I'm telling you, man, he's really mad he can't take credit for it. He's really mad he can't brag about the fact that he was at the island. What was that one thing? What was that one thing that he said? I didn't have the honor, or I didn't have the privilege of going to Little St. James. Yeah, it was privilege. I'm sure he thinks that in one of his better moments. Yeah, he was very lucid right there.